Yo, what's up devs? In this video, I'll show you exactly how you can add subscriptions into your Whop app. Creators will app your app for free, and users will pay weekly, monthly, yearly, or any time interval to be able to use advanced features in your app. You'll start making money. In the second part of the video, I'll show you how you can add a revenue share to reward creators for driving users to your app. Let's get into it. So, right here, I've set up an app on the Whop App dashboard. I can see my environment variables, I can give it a name. What I've also done is I've cloned the app template and run it locally using pnpm dev. This runs the local server on port 3000. As you can see here, my experience page component just returns a div with a text hello world. I've opened this up in a demo Whop and installed it here to see hello world being rendered on the screen. This is with dev mode enabled. Now what I'll do is I'll validate the user making the request and extract their user ID from the header. To do this, I'll just use the Whop SDK. This returns the user ID here, and I can render it to the screen just to check. Going back, we can see exactly my user ID right here. Now, what I need to do is I need to set up our subscriptions on the Whop dashboard. To set up subscriptions on my dashboard, I need to navigate to the Access Passes section. Here, I'll go ahead and create an Access Pass. An Access Pass is the thing that the user buys access to when they buy your subscription. So here I'm going to call it Premium Access. After creating the app, I can see it here. I'll now add pricing. This pricing modal allows me to add various ways or plans of getting access to the same premium access. So here I can create a monthly option, a yearly option, or even a custom time frame that the user paid. I'm going to select recurring and I'm going to select 10 USD per 1 month. I can hit create, and this will create a monthly plan that a user can buy access to. I can also create another option. For example, I might want to charge $100 for 1 entire year of access to give the user a little bit of a discount when purchasing an entire year upfront. For this plan, I can also choose advanced options like free trials or any other form of payment method that Whop supports. I'm going to add a free trial of 7 days to this yearly plan. Now that I'm done here, all I need to do is I need to copy this product ID here. This prod underscore is the ID of the access pass. What I can do now is I can check if the current user has access to this pass. To do this, I can use the Whop SDK.access.check if user has access to access pass function. This function needs an access pass ID, which is the thing that we just copied, and it also needs to know the user ID that we're checking for. In this case, we can just use the user ID that's making the request. This access result contains 2 fields. 1, the access level, and 2, just a boolean of whether they have access or not. The level will say customer or admin if they have access, or none if they don't. We can now print the has access in our response as well. When we navigate back to our app, we can see that this is false. So we can add the has access in here and render yes if they have access and no if they do not. This shows that the current user does not currently have access to the product or access pass that we've just created. Now we can use this check to conditionally render the premium content of our app or an upsell screen where we can convince the user to buy access. For the sake of this demo, I'll just make a very quick premium content screen which will just show some text for now. Here what we can see is that I've created a premium feature screen and an upsell screen. If the user has access, they'll see the premium features. If they don't, they'll see the upsell. We can see right now, we see the upsell screen. Now what we can do is we can add a button that allows the user to purchase one of the payment options. This button needs to be a client component. Therefore, I'll create a new file called page.client.tsx and add the use client directive at the top. Here, I can export a component called payment button. This component can take in some props. The two props that I choose to pass in here are the display text and the plan ID. We'll render the display text in the button, and we'll use the plan ID to create the correct checkout session for the correct plan, either the monthly or the yearly option that we created earlier. Here we'll use a button from the Whop React components, and we'll render out our display text. Now what we can do is we can use a callback to handle the user clicking the button. This callback will be an async function. What we can do from here is we can use the in-app purchase function from the iframe SDK, provided to you through the use iframe SDK hook from the Whop React SDK. This SDK has a method called in-app purchase. Here we can pass the plan ID that we have just used. This result will contain a success or error state. If the result, after awaiting the call, if the result status is error, then we can alert the user with the result.error, which will be a string. Now we can return. Otherwise, we can use the router to reload the page and show the user their new purchased state. We can also add a quick loading state to our button. After creating this simple payment button client component, we can use it on our upsell screen to give the user two options to purchase. What I will do is I will set up a simple UI here. Now what we can do is we can check out our screen again. You can see we have the two buttons, monthly and yearly. However, we haven't set our plan IDs yet. To get our plan IDs, we can go back to the dashboard, we can click on this edit button, and we can copy the plan ID from this drop-down modal. This will give it to us here. This was the $10 plan, and this is the $100 plan. Here we can also say 1 week free to let the user know that the yearly plan has a 1 week free trial. Now, upon clicking the button, we will see a checkout modal in which we can check out. It says total due today is $10 and gives us a price breakdown. Upon canceling, we get this alert, which is expected. We can also hit the 1 year plan, and this shows us our pricing breakdown is now $0 today, and after a 7-day trial, we'll get $100 per year. We'll still need to put in our credit card such that this purchase can be made automatically after 7 days. As you can see, we have a little bit of a bug here. Let's fix that. This bug is because we return early before setting is loading false. So we'll need to set it false just after our alert here as well. Now we should be done. Upon refreshing this, we should have fixed that bug. So if we cancel out, the loading state resets. I'll go through and show the end-to-end flow from the customer. If the customer hits on the monthly $10 plan, after putting in my card details, I'll hit join. And once the checkout process completes, the modal will close and our view will refresh, showing me the upsold state. As you can see, I have premium features right now. This charge will be charged once a month for $10 as long as I decide to stay subscribed. So, to help creators push and promote your app to their users, what you will want to do is you'll want to set up a rev share with a creator that's driving these subscription purchases. To do that, what we'll need to do is we'll need to attach a little bit of metadata into each subscription, and then we can extract that metadata in a webhook and use it to pay out the creator from the money that we've received. What we'll do is we'll add the experience ID as metadata on each subscription. In the webhook, we'll read the experience ID, resolve it to a company ID, and then pay that company. Step 1 is to pass the experience ID as a prop into the upsell screen. We can extract the experience ID from the params. Once we have it here, we can pass it to the payments button. Now we can accept it in the payments button here. And we can create a checkout session. This checkout session will be used to associate that specific payment with this experience ID. What I'll do is I'll create an action called create checkout session. In the sidebar, here I'll use the use server directive to ensure that this is executed on the server, and I'll export an async function called create checkout session. Here I'll pass in the experience ID as an argument. This function will use the Whop SDK to return a checkout session object that we can pass to the in-app purchase function. I'll recopy the plan IDs for the monthly option and the yearly option and put them into an object here to help with the validation. Here I can use key of plans to help with the TypeScript. This means the client will pass in either monthly or yearly and receive back a checkout session with the experience ID attached. Here what I can say is plan ID equals plan index tier. If plan ID is not defined, we'll throw an error and say invalid plan type passed. Now we can include the plan ID here, and we can include some custom metadata right here. This custom metadata is just a JSON object with our experience ID. We can now return the checkout session. In our client component, before opening the in-app purchase, we'll request the checkout session. Here, we'll pass the tier that is present. So what we can do here is we can change this to tier, which can either be monthly or yearly. And we'll pass in the experience ID, which we'll also need to add down here. Now that we have our checkout session, it is very important to pass the entire checkout session object into the in-app purchase function. Before doing that, we'll need to check if the checkout session is undefined. Here we can throw an error and say checkout failed. In your real app, you might want to handle this more gracefully. After that, it's very important to pass the entire checkout session. Notice how you can pass two IDs here. Both of them need to be passed, otherwise the metadata will not be attributed properly. Now, we can add a webhook such that we'll be notified when every payment succeeds. To do that, I'll head over to the Webhooks tab here on the developer page for my app. And I'll create a webhook. The URL will be my production deployment. /API/webhooks. I'll make sure to select the payment succeeded webhook here. After that, I'll copy the secret and I'll put it into my environment as the Whop webhook secret. After adding that in, I will go to the webhook file. This adds some sample code to show you how to handle webhooks. For example, it shows us exactly how to handle the payment succeeded webhook. In this webhook, we can extract the metadata that is associated with this payment. This metadata field will have an experience ID, so I can add it to this call here. Upon receiving a payment, we care about the amount after fees that was transferred, and we care about the metadata. The metadata will contain an experience ID. If the experience ID is not present, we can no longer attribute the payment to a user. So what we'll do is we'll just log and return from the function. Now what we can do is we can choose our custom affiliate percentage for the creator. Let's say we want to give the creator 20% of every purchase or payment that is made. Once we have this amount, we can use the Whop SDK.payments.payUser function, and we can pay the company for that experience ID. Before we do that, we'll need to evaluate the company. To do that, we can get the experience by its experience ID, which was passed in our metadata, and once getting the experience, this will contain the company ID. Here, we'll set the destination ID to the experience.company.id, and then we can also set the amount to the for creator amount. The last thing we'll need to do is we'll need to get our ledger account ID. The company ID that we need to pass in here will be the company ID from our environment. So we can say process.env.whop company ID. And this is public by default. Once we pass that in, we'll get our ledger account here, and then we can use the ledger account to pass our correct transfer fee and for the item potency key, what we'll do is we'll use the receipt ID of the payment that was made. Hence, even if this is called multiple times, we'll never send an affiliate payment for that transaction twice. So we can pass in the payment ID into this function, just like this. And we can use that as the item potency key. This is just a linting rule, so we can turn it off here. To fix these linting errors, all we'll need to do is we'll need to select monthly and yearly tiers instead of plan IDs. Now our app is ready to accept subscriptions. Users can pay for them seamlessly using the Whop checkout UI. And we have enabled a rev share with the creators that are pushing our app. I hope this helps you build the next big Whop app. Let me know how you're going, and feel free to drop into the Whop developers chat to ask any questions that you may have. See you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.